Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Worth Jr. and just got back from Spain for a couple of weeks, and it's been much longer than that since I've put anything out on the channel. And I wasn't going to get into any political stuff upon the return here, but it kind of made it impossible for me to stick to that. And it goes back to when we first got to Madrid. We were supposed to go on a pilgrimage, and it was going to be hiking the Camino Santiago. But a couple months ago, we realized that it wasn't going to be able to have as much hiking as we had planned for a variety of reasons. So we shifted the trip to just do a pilgrimage to various sites in Madrid and northern Spain. So many churches and monasteries and places where things happened, museums. It's kind of mind-boggling, all the great stuff over there. We did make it up to some of the pilgrimage route. We did go out of Santiago de Compostela, which is in the far top left corner of Spain, northwest. And it wasn't hiking the Camino by any stretch. We will do that someday. This was not the time we could do that, but we did go out and on our morning there, got out about a couple hours out of town. Just seemed kind of silly to do it, but we wanted to do it. It was important to us, so I had a car drive us out, a couple hour walk out of town, and then walked it back in. It was in the 40s. It was pitch black. It was really cool, and just seeing other people doing that who had been walking in some cases for upwards of 30 days straight all day. It was pretty impressive for those people. But earlier in the trip, when we were in Madrid, it was a few days into the trip, and we were going to church Sunday morning. And we saw all these people just right outside of our hotel, the plaza right outside of the hotel. We were in the Hotel Plaza Mayor, trying to learn some Spanish there. And there's this bank of media with their lenses trained on this building, this diplomatic building, which was right next door to our hotel. And I had noted when we were waiting in the elevator early that morning, that there was actually, so just sitting in an elevator, it's just a small little hotel, and everything over there is so small, and it's small and old, and that itself had once been a monastery or a convent, and it's right on the Camino as well. It's got the Camino shell on the side of the building. San Tomas, I forget what street it is. But it's right off this little plaza, which is right off the larger Plaza Mayor in Madrid. And I noticed waiting for the elevator that there were a couple lights on in the building just kind of right next door to us. And there hadn't been our first few days there. And this was really early. And it was Sunday morning. And I could see in there. And I could see computer monitors set up. I could see these really old chandeliers. It was looked like there was a little hive of activity going on. And I saw a guy walking in a suit. And I said to my wife, went back in the room, I said, kind of weird. Suddenly there's people in this building next door, and he's in a suit on a Sunday morning. I wonder what's going on. Weird. Anyway, we go down to church and we see all of these lenses trained on the building right next to ours. And we're just kind of walking right along the front of the building like we had done each day so far. And there was a bunch of police there, Nacional Policia, and they had their guns, and they were in front of the building, and they hadn't been. And we just walked right in front of them, didn't say anything, looked back at the media, and my wife just walked over to one of the media people, and they said there were some diplomatic talks going on between the Trump administration and China that were to begin that day, that Sunday. TikTok was the focus of that. That's why this particular journalist was there covering the TikTok angle. It was pretty cool. That went on. And then when we came back from church, it was we couldn't get close to that building. We had to go all the way around. They had set up this perimeter now, all kinds of police, all kinds of guns, walk all the way around, and then back around to the front entrance of our hotel. And then we get home from a long day and a long night and dinner, and we're walking back, and my wife sees some people that she recognized. She had looked up some stuff on the web and saw some faces she recognized from the U.S. delegation. They're all in their suits, and they're just walking back to their hotel, I guess, at the end of a long day, just on the streets of Madrid. It was pretty cool. And then we see all the military people, their vests, their little berets, wheeling their long cases behind them, which would be for longer rifles, I'm sure. They probably had snipers posted around there just in case. But it was just walking around to church, walking around for meals. It was all, and I don't think anything was ever really happening out in front of the building. They just had these people there to cover it. So that went on Sunday and Monday, and I think they were done by Monday night, Tuesday morning. I don't know. Then we didn't see the lights on anymore after that. We get home to DFW yesterday. And again, I don't want to talk about any politics stuff. I just want to talk about churches. I want to talk about saints. I want to talk about the founding of religious orders and art and El Greco and Toledo and Burgos Cathedral, just all this stuff. The Prado, we went to the Prado 3 times because they have free hours the last 2 hours of every day, so we did that twice. And then the third time we said, okay, we've just got to pay and spend more time in here. And that led us to this museum of Reina Sofia, Queen Sofia, or whatever Reina Sofia means, which is where Guernica is, the great Picasso, the super long piece he did for that town back during the Spanish Civil War. And the Spanish Civil War is still kind of alive and well from what we heard and saw in Madrid. Bookstores featured a lot. Our food tour guide was a lady from London, but she was talking about how long she's been in Madrid and the changes she's seen. It's still kind of a force there. He seized power, this fascist dictator. And it was a training ground for Hitler before starting World War II. And he just rolls into Madrid with the military and decides he's going to take over their government. And people from all over the world kind of tried to help the government there. You had a lot of journalists being involved in this war, covering the war, and some of them end up fighting in it themselves, because you can't have a fascist dictator take over a country like this just by force, like Francisco Franco did. But that's what happened, and it tore the country up for 3 years. And then he was a dictator for 40 years until he died in 1975. Almost 40 years. So that's what can happen, even if you do stand up to the takeover, the forcible takeover of power from a democratically elected government. You couldn't escape that shadow. If you knew about it, it was there. And in this museum, we thought we'd run into this museum. It had some free hours at the end of the day too. It was not far from the Prado, but there's multiple floors, and there's a lot of modern art. But the floor that Guernica is on, it's all about the propaganda for both sides that was going on in the 30s, leading up to the takeover, and then during the takeover, and just the same words, the same sentiment, it's just the same. It's 90 years ago. The same playbook we always talk about. They're following the authoritarian playbook, and it could not be more apparent than when you go through and look at something like that, and you are recognizing these signs. So again, I'm excited to make a video when I get home, and like today is when I want to make the video. But we land, and we have Trump's comments to the UN. Laughable, right? Ridiculous, Trump. But then this morning here in Dallas, like 7 a.m. local time, we had this thing happen at the ICE office. And I still don't know totally what happened. I mean, we're seeing about the casualties and not a lot of information yet. More information is coming out. Not going to go into that. But what I will go into is on CNBC at the end of their article, they have the three statements by the Trump administration, various people in it, all about how the left is trying to divide us and keep people from doing their jobs and making America safer. And why is the left polarizing us, and why is the left tearing us apart? This is Trump's people saying all this, and on the heels of saying they don't even really know everything that happened yet, but they immediately are blaming the left for this division. And for, like, I don't even know anything about the person that pulled the trigger yet, or who they were aiming at yet. I know at least one detainee was murdered. I know the person who murdered that person is dead. They say it was self-inflicted gunshot wound. I mean, I don't know all the details yet, but despite not knowing those details yet, the Trump administration is sure all over blaming the left for causing all of this. Sorry, I don't remember ICE being problematic without Trump being in office. So it's not the left. I'm just going to say that. Welcome back to America, I guess. One funny note is we did rent a car for most of our second week there from just one of the busiest places in downtown Madrid, where there are some car rental places. And this guy, Jesus, he was awesome. I talked to him on the phone ahead of time. Just a really funny guy, nice guy. Got to meet him in person when I was there. Just the car rental attendant guy. And he was asking why we were there, and we were just saying, vacation, religion, and it's nice to get away from the craziness in our country for a little bit. And he said, in his thick Spanish accent, he spoke good English. He said, Trump? And I just kind of laughed, and I said, yeah. And he said, you don't like Trump? And I said, well, I really don't want to get into it. And he said, you hate Trump? And my wife's back behind me laughing. I said, yeah, I hate Trump. And he said, I have not met a single American renting a car who likes Trump. All Americans who rent cars from me hate Trump. and I'm just sitting there thinking, and yet he won our election. That's just real funny. But that made me feel pretty good that Americans traveling to Spain don't like Trump, at least who are dealing with this rental car attendant. So that was fun. I will make some history videos. Sorry for you political junkies. I will talk about some churches and some Catholicism and kings and all of that fun stuff at some point. Not getting to it today. Too much political stuff going on right now. Hope everyone is doing well. And that's all I've got for now. We'll talk to you all later.